Welcome to the Trying Scotsman podcast. This is a bonus episode, just a quick chat, stroke rant about the Batman, the latest movie. I didn't like it. I'm not going to beat about the bush. I did not like it. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't brilliant. It just, I don't know. I feel like it just didn't need to be. Very much like my thoughts on the Joker movie. It just didn't need to happen. It added nothing of value. The one thing I did enjoy was that, well, actually, no, there's two things I enjoyed. One, they didn't rehash Thomas and Martha getting killed again, like they seem to have to do in every single Batman movie. And the sort of detective vision, like in the game, but kind of made a bit more I guess, down to earth a little bit. Although I hate seeing people touching their eyes. Like, I can't see people put contact lenses and stuff like that in. So to see that shit, I wasn't a fan. But I like the way that they integrated the detective vision kind of thing. But yeah, like the story just, it didn't need, there was nothing new. I didn't like the Riddler. The that just was such a pointless, like, that actually made me love Jim Carrey's Riddler even more. Yeah, I struggled with it, and I kept watching it, waiting for something that would grab me, because normally stuff like that, stuff that I really love, I get goosebumps, and I got goosebumps at the music at the start, and then I realized it was Nirvana, and I realized that's why I got goosebumps, because of more like nostalgia. But like the score, like, you know, other Batman movies, they typically, the score grabs you. Like Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer. There's just something that it messes with you physically. Like, you know, when it starts ramping up, I can feel, just thinking about it, especially Dark Knight Rises, which, you know, not many people have a lot of good things to say about it. I loved it. But like the score, when it surges, and I can feel my heart kind of beating faster. It seems to beat faster because my body is fully being dragged into this. And there was none of that. There was no feeling. I felt like half hour in, I felt like I'd watched the whole thing because it just felt that long. The pacing of it was just painfully slow. The fight scenes, where there are some, are pretty cool. Like the bit in the subway, or like the train station, whatever it is, that was pretty cool. But it just wasn't long enough. And at one point, I did, because like there's this guy who looks like he's meant to be getting initiated into the gang. Because my theory was like half his face is painted, the other half isn't, and that sets him out from the others. Because I think he hasn't been fully inducted into their crew yet. And the what was meant to take place in the train station was gonna get him the other half of his face. But I thought, oh, could this be Jason Todd? Could this be something that might pan out? And then that's that. Nothing. Andy Serkis is Alfred. Nah, I love Andy Serkis. I wasn't a big fan of Michael Caine as Alfred, mind, because Alfred isn't meant to be like this cockney geezer. He's meant to be a fucking sort of, I don't know. I know he's a butler, so his life is of servitude. But he's meant to be posh. I mean, the best depiction of Alfred, I think, is in Batman the Animated Series. Like, I loved Michael Gough, but he didn't have a mustache. but yeah, it was just the casting just didn't make sense. Like Jim Gordon sounded more like Batman than Batman with a husky voice. The Batmobile was shit. Penguin, you didn't need Colin Farrell. And again, I'm a big fan of Colin Farrell's work for the most part, but you didn't need him for that role. I don't think he added anything to it. It was mainly makeup. The lines and everything I feel could have been delivered by anybody. You know, you could have had Nolan North, who did the voices in the Arkham games, in that gear. I can't remember the guy's name, but the one that played Nixon in The Watchmen, he could have been Penguin. Anybody could have played that. Yeah, it just felt pointless. It's almost 3 hours long. No need. If it was 3 hours of quality storytelling and it brought something new, like the end, I won't get too much into that, but the end just pissed me off. The final scene in Arkham. The whole thing about Martha having been admitted into Arkham at some point in her life, that felt like it was trying to allude to, I think, is it Earth 2? Where Martha becomes the Joker. Bruce dies, Thomas becomes Batman, and Martha becomes the Joker, something like that. It just felt like it was trying to make some kind of connection there. You didn't really get to witness much of Bruce Wayne being a playboy or any of that. Yeah, just I can't think of any moment that stood out and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. It didn't even need to be a Batman movie. That could have just been a movie on corruption. That could have been like the American fucking Line of Duty or something like that. There was nothing really apart from using names from the series and obviously the appearance of Batman. That story, I think this is the thing. A Batman story has to be something that could only be told in the Batman universe. It can only be told in the DC universe. There has to be something that sets it apart, and there just wasn't. Pattinson wasn't that bad. He was all right, I guess. But yeah, there was no standout moments for me casting wise. There was no one I thought that was, you know, like Catwoman. Meh. It was all just meh. It was just a bag of meh. And some people love it, and let them. You know, they're not. If they love it, they've obviously found things that that speak to them. As a big Batman and DC fan, like I've always said I'm more DC than Marvel. Not like the toxic fanboy shit, but I relate more to the DC stuff. I do like the darker, grittier stuff. But you know, after every movie that DC puts out lately, I think Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot, that could have been the saving grace. That could have been the pivotal moment. And they've pissed it away again. They cannot get the universe to be even on par with Marvel. Fuck beating Marvel. Just fucking get it to the same quality. You've got all these TV shows that you just keep thrashing out until all good ideas have gone and it just turns to shit. Consolidate your universe. Have the TV shows tie in with the movies like Marvel. Let them say that you're copying them. I mean, realistically, if you go back to the comics, everything is a copy in some shape or form. You've got characters that are basically the same. They just look a little bit different. They've got different names. You know, it's like, just get your shit together. Really is all that I can say. Stop getting these people that are just like, oh my god, I'm gonna make a fucking Batman movie. Like, I think that movie definitely needed the studio to step in. And if the studio did step in, then maybe step out. But yeah, it was just, like I said, it just felt like someone put it together just because. Like, if you're gonna do Batman, do Batman. Because even the ending of it, like, if you go back to Nolan's trilogy, and you've got the calling card, and obviously turn it over and it's a Joker, you're like, oh my fucking god. The end of this, you're just like, eh. And stop reusing the same fucking villains. Like, how many times have we seen fucking Penguin, Catwoman? You know, you don't need 3 villains in a movie. You don't need 3 main villains anyway. Like, obviously Tim Burton's Batman had Joker. Batman Returns, obviously then you ramp it up a little bit. You have 2 main villains, Catwoman and Penguin, although Catwoman's not technically a villain per se. She straddles the line. But you don't need, just have one main, and don't even play all your cards. You know, keep some behind for the fucking final act. Jesus. Like, you know, the Falcone thing was so obvious. And John Turturro, love him. Did not like him as Falcone, or Falcone, however you want to pronounce it. It just felt like, I don't know, it felt like the movie dragged and then it kind of raced to tie everything up at the end. And then flooding the city. You breach the seawall and the fucking city floods. So if you are planning on a sequel, what's the worst that's going to happen now? I think the only other thing you can do is nuke the place. I think this is the trouble. You get these very ambitious people that don't pace it right, and they try to cram as much in as they can, where a more sensible play would be hold back the main villain. Like, look at Batman Begins. You thought you knew who Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul was, and then it fucks with you. And then it fucks with you again because you're like, was that the real, or was that just another decoy? You know, that held its, and granted, obviously Batman Begins, you did have, because you had Scarecrow, but Scarecrow wasn't really a main villain. Scarecrow was just like a sort of side act, which is fine. But there's, out of all of the villains within the DC universe, and you just keep using the same ones. Like, initially I thought Calendar Man might have been in the Batman, because when it mentioned Halloween, and I thought, oh, could this tie in with Long Halloween somehow? And there'd be a bit there. But I think the timeline of the movie is it all takes place over the course of a week. It felt like a fucking week watching it. But, like, there's so many characters we haven't really seen, apart from in Suicide Squad. We haven't really seen Killer Croc. Clayface. A fucking on-screen, well-done Clayface would be fucking amazing. Obviously, it seems like they learnt their lesson about Poison Ivy and not bothered reusing her. But again, she could be done really well as the femme fatale. I don't know. It's just, it seems lazy. They're going for the low-hanging fruit. Because the thing is, right, you could argue it's like, oh, they're going for the recognizable things that'll drag people to the cinema. Batman should be recognizable on his own. The villains in it should be a bonus. But then take that and look at the detective vision aspect of it. Pretty much only people that played the games would appreciate that, because that's the only other time we've sort of seen it done like that. And as we all know, not everybody loves video games. A lot of people, especially the movie lovers, hate video games. they don't like interactive movies, which is bizarre to me because you kind of think that they go hand in hand, but so you can't even say, oh, they did that for familiarity, because a lot of people would never have realized that. And obviously there's only so far in the comics and stuff that you can portray something like that. It obviously it plays differently when it's live in front of your eyes. But yeah, people are probably not going to like my opinion on the movie, and that's fine. If we all had the same opinion, then it would be pretty fucking boring. But as much as I do love Batman, I'm not enough of a fanboy to put that aside, and still embrace this movie as like this amazing thing. It's not. I think initially there were probably some really, really good ideas that got lost along the way. Maybe through development, they decided to leave this out and swap this in, or budget doesn't allow for that, or whatever. Wrong decisions were made. Mainly going ahead and actually making this movie.